This is WGRG FM, where we meet the absolute minimum FCC standards for radio broadcasting. It's time to hang on and brace yourself for a community radio program that's frankly indescribable. Let's talk Geneseo. Two guys with nothing better to do on a Friday morning but talk about our community. Geneseo City Administrator Brandon Meglin and Alderman Keith Kennett. And yeah, nobody puts the blah and blah, blah, blah like they do.
Well, good morning, Brandon. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you, Keith?
Well, I'm doing well, thank you. And good Friday morning to all of our listeners. You're listening to WGRG 100.5 FM in Geneseo, and it's another Friday edition of Let's Talk Geneseo. So we kick the ball over to Brandon because we're excited to have our guest this morning, and it's not only a special guest in a way, but also a very special program that we have. And how about you steer us out of here?
I think before we introduce our special guest, we should let everybody know what's going on in the room here today. We have some other special guests that are just observing the radio program with us.
We do have some guests observing this morning. It is a school holiday, so we have some young students and two granddaughters with us. Molly and Charlotte are joining us this morning observing, and they have some responsibilities. Charlotte's in charge of our streaming recording so that we can replay this as part of a podcast later. And Molly's been in charge of our video operations and switching our between our live camera at State Street and our studio camera. And we are under always the safe and watchful eye of Chief Casey, who is joining us also as an observer. So we have a pretty full studio this morning.
Yeah. I didn't know we were going to have so many assistants. This is great. I mean, the program's growing so much. We need all these extra workers. So you guys might have to start coming more often.
You know, it's like our entourage of production assistants.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we are fortunate this morning to be joined by Jamie Shoemaker. Jamie is a detective at the Geneseo Police Department. She's heavily involved in the Geneseo Impact Program, which we're going to kind of dive in today and let her tell us all about the program and her involvement in it and how it got started. But to get going, why don't we just, take the impact, put the impact thing to the side. Tell us who Jamie Shoemaker is, why you got into police work, what led you to Geneseo.
So I got into police work I wanted to be a police officer from a young age and got into it because I genuinely wanted to help people. I think there's a cliche when people say, when you had those interview questions, why should we pick you? Why do you want to be a police officer? I've always had a drive to want to help people who can't help themselves. And I think that being a police officer, it's a selfless job. And there's a lot that we do that every day I get to go home and I get to say, I made a difference today. Regardless if it's helping somebody get in their car or if it's returning somebody's dog sometimes in Geneseo, we've helped somebody's day because what we like to say is everybody's crisis looks different. So every day I get to make somebody's day or try to make a difference in their life. So I think that being a police officer or a first responder, I think is one of those jobs where you get to genuinely have that feeling like you helped somebody today. So I've always been passionate about helping someone. I started my law enforcement career a long time ago. So I started working with juvenile delinquents, Annie Whitmire, for a while. So I've worked there for about, approximately 4.5 years. I was a boot camp instructor for juvenile delinquent boys, so that was interesting. And from there, I also have a passion. I left the law enforcement field for a little bit and did personal training for a while, so that's also a passion of mine. And then worked in the Rock Island County Jail for a couple months, and then they gave me the blessing and put me on the road as a deputy. So I did that for 6 years in Rock Island County, and then came to Geneseo, and I've kind of hit the ground running since I've been here. So it's been really exciting for me to be out here, and with the administration that we have and the people in place, I feel like our department is just thriving right now.
Yeah. So, I was fortunate enough to get to go to hear you speak, and Tim Steinez was a speaker there as well at an event at Augustana College that was really geared towards other law enforcement officials in the Quad Cities with Geneseo PD kind of leading and putting on the program, right? As far as a day talking about mental health and how law enforcement responds to it, I guess, and maybe sharing things together. But you guys really led that program. So with the speech that you gave there, I was hoping that you could share a little bit of the backstory of what's going on in the Quad Cities. We have a excuse me, got a little frog in the throat this morning.
It happens.
But some of the things that we're seeing across the Quad Cities and Geneseo as it relates to mental health and addiction and things of that nature.
So with Augustana, what we did there is I think that we're seeing a need with police calls. What we do is a majority of our calls are based around mental health, mental illness. I'd like to back up a little bit. Like when we started doing this, Chief Disterhoff and Deputy Chief Carson came to me and said, let's start a mental health task force. So that's how Impact kind of started rolling. Because the thing with it is there's a need all across multiple departments, every state. It's not like the problem doesn't just go for just Geneseo or just the Quad Cities. It's all over. And I think what's important to realize is how we're responding to somebody's crisis. So if we're educated on mental illness and educated on somebody in their crisis, we can better help them by taking just a little bit more time to work with that person. So with our conference and talking to other first responders, it's just taking that extra step. So if we respond to somebody's mental illness crisis, if it's somebody having a manic episode, if it's somebody having auditory hallucinations where they're hearing something, our department is trained in CIT, which is crisis intervention training. We all have a 40-hour class. Not all departments do that. Our department has taken a serious approach to educating our officers on mental illness. So it helps us to take that extra step. So we slow things down. If I come to you on your worst day and I'm just trying to rush you through your crisis, how does that look? And what's your reaction to me? So if we slow it down and we take just a little bit more time on that call, we take a little bit more time to work with that person and explain to them that we're here to help. We get with their friends, we get with their family. We do follow-up calls to these individuals that are suffering in this mental illness crisis. And what we do know with mental illness is that sometimes with mental illness, people will use substances such as drugs to self-medicate to help either stop the auditory hallucinations, to slow down any type of anxiety they may have. And so I think we're just being a little bit more sympathetic, empathetic to the situation when it comes to somebody's addiction, when it comes to mental illness. We need to just take a different approach and be more educated on what's going on with that individual, because not everybody's crisis, once again, looks the same. So we need to approach that situation and help that individual and connect them with resources that they need. So with that conference, what we did is we educated other first responders on other resources. And currently I'm compiling a list of resources for first responders. So when you go to this, you're able to be like, I know who to call. I know that they need housing. I know that they need food. So bringing people together and talking about mental illness and mental health is really important, because sometimes I feel like we think mental illness and mental health are the same. They're not. Mental health is something like today. I always say this when I do my speeches to people. I don't know what your religious background is, but I start my day with gratitude. I say, thank you, God, for this day. Thank you for my job. Thank you for my house, my relationships. If we start our day healthy and with gratitude and happiness, it kind of guides our day. So I always try to tell people, I'm like, that's my idea of mental health. And physical activity too, our endorphins being risen. So taking care of ourselves mentally and physically starts it off. But not everybody has the opportunity to not have mental illness. That's a disease that somebody may have. So we want to help guide them and get the best resources and help them to guide their day in a positive way.
Yeah. Tell us about, so some of the partners that you guys are starting to work with were at the conference as well. But so what does that actually look like? And I know that things are still developing and you guys are putting things together. But like right now, if there is a situation, what kind of things do you guys actually do on a call or after a call?
So after a call, so in a scenario, let's say it's a mental illness call, because there's different ideas. So you're kind of giving me just throwing it out there. Okay. So hypothetical, which police officers love hypotheticals. So let's just say it's a mental illness person suffering from schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder, which is actually somebody that we had in our community in this last year. So when we work with somebody along those lines, what we would do is we would slow down. Sometimes when you're talking to somebody who's hearing auditory hallucinations, what we know is that they're hearing multiple voices in their head. So if you're right now, we have these headsets on. If you're playing music in my ear and you're asking me a question, I'm hearing what's in my ears, but I'm also listening to what you're saying. So my response to you is going to be slower. So what I need to realize is that person who's suffering in that crisis, if I say, sir, can you step back? It might take him 20 more seconds to hear what I'm saying and comprehend that he needs to step back. So what I need to do as a police officer is I need to realize this person is hearing voices. And what we do say is, sir, are you hearing something that I might not be hearing? And he'll say, yes, I'm hearing voices. Or we ask them, and then we say, what are they telling you to do? Just so we can better make sure that we're safe, make sure that person's safe, and make sure everybody around us is safe. And so from there, let's say that we are able to get them into a medical facility, or maybe they're not to that point that they need to. Maybe we can just take them home. Now, what we do as follow-up is we're going to reach out to some resources. So there's individuals that we can call. So if they go into the medical facility, we can call Bridgeway. We can get an evaluation done. Okay, so I work really closely with Bridgeway. Their vice president and I are actually, I have her personal cell phone number. I don't give it out. But we become pretty close where I call her for advice sometimes. We work with Freedom House. Freedom House is for domestic violence victims. Sometimes that might be the case. We work with, it's the Geneseo Food Pantry. We have such a great relationship with Mike Sigwalt, because sometimes a person who's suffering from a mental illness is not working. They don't have the means to be able just to get food or basic needs. So what we've done is collaboration is first and foremost. I can't even stress enough in this community how grateful I am, because I don't think Impact would be as successful as it is without the collaboration of the different associations in our community alone. We've collaborated with, like I said, Mike Sigwalt. We have Good Shepherd that we work with here, Bridgeway with Henry County. We're currently diving into dementia, which we'll get into that a little bit, hopefully. So we're just collaborating with multiple people. So then the next day we call this person or this person's family and say, hey, so-and-so is having a manic episode yesterday, having a hard time. Can you just check in on them? And they're like, oh, thanks for the heads up. And then in maybe a couple days, we'll call that individual and say, hey, how are you doing? Because the next time I interact with that person, I want them to see me as a person, not just a police officer, not just a detective, as somebody who's going to take them to jail or take them to the hospital. I want them to see me as a person who cares. So we have to take that extra step and not just show up to their crisis, but show up when they're not having a crisis too. So there's multiple steps to it.
Yeah, it's such an important point about, how you guys in Geneseo are leading the way and helping change. How do folks see police officers, and some of these things are important changes, and the types of calls that we deal with here. We're fortunate, right, that you guys are given the resources and the time to be able to do this, which is awesome. You're not. I guess there's other cities, right, that are running back-to-back calls that have, this is a real challenge to be able to focus on these types of programs.
Well, and one of the things here, and Jamie, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking to myself that, as a young officer coming into policing today, versus maybe a veteran that's been doing it for 15 or 20 years or what have you, but probably just the dramatic change, I guess, there has been in police work, and you mentioned it, at how much just mental illness and how that affects your job performance and what have you. But just even having not only an awareness of that, but then also strategies and tactics and things to be able to deal with it in a safe manner when you're doing your responsibilities as a police officer. But beyond that, though, to where you can also take that opportunity to try and be of a positive assistance or help to this person. And I know as part of the Impact program here, there's organizations that can help, but there are times though that somebody might fall through the cracks or that sort of thing, and that. And you touch on it, but in our community, though, we kind of have a formal and an informal support group that you can reach out to help in those situations.
Absolutely. Our churches have actually been, excuse me, I also have a frog in my throat.
It's frog in the throat morning.
Yes, I guess so. I think, here's the thing, when we talk about collaboration with our community too, like we've even reached out to our churches for help. I think that's what's important about this, and I think what's beneficial for our community being a small community, and we have so many people who are willing to step up and step forward. I think that's just so impressive, and not every community has that. And so I know other people can try, but theirs may look a little different from our program, what we're doing. But we just have such great support. And like I said, our churches, the people that we follow up with, I just think that we've had so much help. And I think that's what makes us successful here with Geneseo with the Impact program. And that's why we're able to evolve. And so when it comes to mental illness, like I said, we're currently working on becoming a dementia-friendly community. That's part of Impact, obviously, with mental illness. And we want to help those caregivers. So it's all about just taking that extra step. So we don't just respond to somebody's crisis where a person with dementia walks out their front door and we can't find them again, right? Because that's somebody's crisis that's suffering from mental illness. So if we can help and support that caregiver, we can support that person living with dementia. That also blankets underneath Impact. So it's, once again, it's how us as law enforcement are responding to this, because law enforcement is evolving every single day. We're either going to we're going to jump on or we're going to fall off, because I think that I love the idea of this, though. So this is where I think the reason why I thrive so much in this, because community policing to me is, I think that's how you start a successful department and a successful community. Is I want people to know who I am. So I recently, like I said, it's Detective Shoemaker, but I've been getting lax on that. And I think as I progress and I understand the professional aspect of Detective Shoemaker, but I encourage people to call me Jamie. I tell my boss all the time, I'm coming to work in sweatpants, because I feel like if people were to see me as a normal human being, I'd get farther. So we kind of joke around that. I'm not going to work in sweatpants, but it's one of those things where I want people to see me as a human being. So when I'm talking to somebody in a crisis, I want them to recognize me as a person, a friend, a family member, somebody in the community that they see that they can reach out and be like, hey, without judgment, can you help me? That's what I would like to see. We have people that currently call us when they're in crisis and they're like, hey, can you just go for a walk with me? Now, could you imagine 10 years ago, a police officer just getting a phone call being like, really, you want me to go for a walk with you? No, but it's the walk helps her, because the thing with it is the first time I met her, it was in a crisis situation. Now she calls me before the crisis. Now she calls me, she's like, hey, my anxiety is getting really amped up and I just need somebody to talk to. We have now diverted her from the criminal justice system, and now I'm just somebody in the community that's going for a walk in front of her house just to de-escalate her. How great is that? There's no hands-on, there's no lights and sirens. It's literally just a police response in the sense of, I just want to have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, and it saves, it's a way of getting in front of a situation and preventing it from becoming a worse situation. But far more importantly than that, though, is, again, genuinely helping someone. And, that's kind of what it's all about. And in this impact program, and from a city official standpoint, we've had presentations at city council and what have you, but we also have the ability to, be aware of situations where it really has made a difference. And in a lot of those situations you really can't speak about and what have you. They just quietly go on, and nobody's even all the wiser to it. But you're just positively affecting things, and that's what's so great about this program, is that it does that in a very quiet way, but it does take a whole department approach to it. And that you can have one officer that thinks it's the greatest thing, but there isn't a support from from the chief on down, and from city officials and what have you. And as Jamie pointed to, the whole community kind of needs to buy in, and it can really work great. And through sharing this message then with other law enforcement agencies and stuff, we're kind of and our program, I'm sure, has taken the good points from other programs and worked them in, and now we can share that with others. But yeah, it just does strike me, though, at if you were to bring a police officer in from 20 years ago, and again would mental health and what have you, would this even be a consideration as you're out interacting? Probably not. But you see how much of it, as a society, we are placing more responsibilities on law enforcement officials and first responders and what have you. And so you have two choices. One, you can recognize that reality and then train and deal with it as best you can. Or the other option is, it's not my problem, let someone else worry about it. But it's good to see here in Geneseo, we decided that, we're going to not only recognize it, but try and make something good from it. Yeah,
I'd like to just so our team with Impact, I'm not just the only person who does Impact. So we have Detective Tim Sinus, who's up at the high school. He does Impact here at the high school. And when I say he does Impact, what it means is he cares. Okay, so and you have Officer Berthoud, who's at the middle school. She's doing great things with the middle schoolers. And it's not that we're talking about mental illness. We're not talking about substance use. What they're doing is they're there in not just a police capacity, but also a person who cares. So you have, even in the high school, if you come up here any day of the week, you'll see that there is multiple kids coming into Detective Tim Steinus's office wanting to have a conversation. And like he likes to call himself as the dad role, right? So all of us, and some Sergeant Ben Sleaford, so he helps us with a lot with our veterans. So we have different people within our department who have strengths and that can help certain people with that we have that come in with their crisis. I'm not super educated on a lot of veteran services, but Sergeant Sleaford is. Officer Berthoud has her own experiences. Detective Tim Steinus has his experiences. I have my own experiences. And so I think that what makes us so strong is the fact that we have so many people with different life experiences, different ages, and we're able to better help our community and different people that may arise. I'm also a Phase 3 hostage negotiator. So the thing with it is what we always say is like in the hot seat. Now, sometimes if I get on with a person I need to negotiate with, that person might not like a female, okay? You have to be the person in the chair like Detective Tim Steinus says. He says, you don't always need to be Michael Jordan, but you need to know who Michael Jordan is. And I love that saying because the thing with it is you have to know who's the right person for that time. Who's the right person to help that individual. So I just want to make sure everybody, like we have just like such a strong impact team right now, and we're encouraging other officers to join in. And here, we even have other officers that are buying in, and they're like, hey, can you just give this person a call? And I actually encouraged one of our officers yesterday. I'm not going to call him out. I wish he was listening, though. But I said, thank you so much. I go, this makes me so happy. And he goes, okay, I get it. So he's like, can you just call her and just make sure she doesn't, offer her some resources? So we're all buying in. Like, it's really happening, and it's almost, it's addicting to, I think, the rest of the officers are seeing that there's a change.
Nice. Yeah, well, thanks for talking to us about that. So I've been told, switching gears a little bit here, back to the physical part of coping mechanisms and doing positive things for yourself. I've been told you're training for a bodybuilding competition. Is that true? And
Chief is in trouble.
tell us about this.
So I'm trying to compete. It'll be my 4th time doing it. So April of next year in DeKalb. Right now, basically, it's just tracking food, and I have a coach today at 10:30. I have a weightlifting session I will be going to. I'm just really big into physical health because I think that we have to take care of our physical bodies as well. Actually, being a police officer, there's multiple reasons to be in physical shape. But I'm a big believer in endorphins. I think that, food-wise, what we put in our body is important. So it's not just about being skinny or being that physical appearance, but to be able to feel good, feel well. And so it just gives me goals. People always say, oh, Jamie and her goals. I like to have something to reach for. I like to have something to work towards. That's probably why Impact is continuing to grow, because I always like to see things continue to push forward. And that's why I usually ask for forgiveness and not permission to the bosses. So, yeah, when it comes to my bodybuilding stuff, like I said, at any goal, I just like to have something to work for, because I think outside of even, like I said, I'm a police officer, but that's not all I am. I also have a 21-year-old son who plays golf at the D2 school in Missouri. And I think it's important that we, even for police officers or first responders, we have to have other things to focus on. So for me, I like to weightlift. It's something that I thrive to do. It's not for everybody, but I encourage people, first responders or anybody with any job, we have that stress at our job every day. If we don't have anything else to focus on, I'm not just Jamie the police officer. I'm Jamie the mom, Jamie the person who likes to lift weights, Jamie who gives people a hard time about drinking pop all the time. So, I mean, it's, I have my own personality. Sorry, I had to call you out.
Called me out.
7 o'clock in the morning.
That's a regular Coca-Cola.
So I like to give people a hard time, I like to joke around. But, yeah, so, I mean, I just think it's really important that we have other things that we do outside of here. But, yeah, I enjoy weightlifting. I enjoy challenging the other officers to push-up contests. That may have happened a couple of times.
Well, it rings true with me, too. I can tell you, if I do not work out in the morning before a regular work day here at the city, I feel totally different physically and mentally, focusing on the things that we do at City Hall. It's just a totally different mindset for me.
So that's your idea of like you're starting your day with your mental health. That's your idea of mental health. Like you may not realize, and I think some people don't realize their routine. So when I give these speeches, I would say, what did you do today for your physical health? People will drink water, they'll take the stairs, they'll do something, they'll take the little bit longer route, but they don't realize they're making those conscious efforts. So what if you made some conscious efforts towards your mental health too? So like, that's why I always encourage people. I'm like, just take that minute. On my way here, just to get amped up, I like Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker. I think it's a mindset for me. So it's like, when you are listening to things and when you're going to work, you're going to school, you're going to any type of thing, it's like, it just brightens your attitude. And I like to be a motivator. I like to, and if somebody were to be like, I want somebody to be like, she's a motivator, that to me would be a compliment, because that changes your day. It changes how you approach things. That to me is, I think, a powerful thing to be. So I always try to do that for myself as well, so I look for outside guidance on that too.
Yeah. So I want to shift now to some of the things coming up that Impact is involved with. On October 28th, you guys are doing a movie at the Central Theater. This is an event taking place from 1 to 3 p.m., and there's also a live panel discussion. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is exactly?
So we're working closely with Bridgeway and Leanne Corson. She is somebody who spoke at my conference this year, and she is she has addiction recovery story, and she actually helps people that have addiction, and we'll call her and she will help people get to AA meetings. She'll help people get to different resources or different appointments to help them with their needs and recovery. And so this movie and our panel is going to be questions on, what she went through, what's her story, and like signs and symptoms to recognize people around you. So it's really, once again, it's spreading the message and bringing awareness to what is going on. Because for so long, I think with mental illness and substance use, we just want to be like, oh, that person's over there. But what if we start recognizing signs and symptoms and are able to actually offer somebody resources? I think people wouldn't shy away as much as if they knew what to do. If you knew what to do. Now, not everybody in addiction is ready for recovery, but what if that person one day comes to you and is ready for recovery? You have a small window, and what if you're able to help them? So I think the education portion of what Leanne is coming to do is extremely powerful.
Nice. And then on November 14th, there's an event called Culver's Share Night, and this is a fundraiser for Impact, I believe.
Once again, our communities come together and have helped us. We're going to be fundraising for the Impact program. Our Impact funds go to help people with crisis needs. So if it's somebody that needs housing, food, which if we're able to, we direct them to the Geneseo Food Pantry, but there's certain crises that may come up. We've gotten people bus tickets before. We've gotten people to doctor's appointments before. Those are crisis funds. So the funds that are in underneath Impact and the people that raise the money for that are to help people that come into our community and people that are in our community that need help in a crisis. And those funds are allotted through the chief and deputy chief, and they give our blessing if we make sure to ask them if this is appropriate, and then they give us the blessing, and then we're able to help people with those funds. And I would like to also give a plug too. So we just did a fundraiser earlier in the year with the dueling pianos. And Central Bank has been pivotal in helping us fundraise. And like I said, once again, our community is just thriving and helping us to become successful. So,
yeah. Excellent. Well, a couple other things that we want to mention before we depart today. A couple things on the calendar. Next Thursday, 10/26, we have Witches Weekend starts in downtown Geneseo. This is running from Thursday through next Saturday. I believe that there are some deals going on, some raffle drawings, prizes in different stores. We also have the boutique hop on Thursday night, the 26th, too. A bunch of the boutiques downtown are participating in a shopping excursion with prizes in stores too. So make sure you check that out. 10/31 Halloween is Trick or Treat in Geneseo, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then, I thought today we would also mention that Christmas Walk is right around the corner.
It is coming. Yes.
Yeah. I know we're starting to think at the city about float building already. So, you going to participate in that, Jamie, this year?
Yeah, let's just add that to the list. Can I, real quick, October? We actually have an event at Central Bank Pavilion on Saturday for a fundraiser for cops and firefighters for Christmas. And just real quick plug, so we're doing scavenger hunts. We have pumpkins and pumpkin painting with cops and firefighters. We have all of that is all only by donation. And then at 6 p.m., we're going to be showing, with the help of the Park District, we're going to be showing Hocus Pocus in the Central Bank Pavilion.
And where does that money go?
All that money is going for cops and firefighters for Christmas. So we actually help kids that were given to us, and then we'll take them shopping to Walmart, and then we go to pizza. And like, so basically the schools will offer up those names, and we get them, and they come and we shop with those kids.
And that's this Saturday?
The fundraiser is this Saturday. We'll have pumpkin painting, and we'll be showing Hocus Pocus from 4 to 6.
Okay, so at the Central Pine Pavilion, and then Hocus Pocus
Yes,
at
afterwards.
the theater.
Nope, no, Hocus
no.
Pocus is actually there. We have a blow-up screen.
Oh,
Bring your
well.
lawn chairs and blankets.
Well, there you go.
After it gets dark.
Understand. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't put that
Well,
in there.
cool.
And then do want to mention that the next show, October 27th, we are going to have Mr. David Smith from Smith Studio and Art Gallery. He'll be in here to talk about Scarecrow Row and some of the events that are coming up. There's actually quite a few things going on the 28th in town, too, other than Scarecrow Row. But that's the big one, bringing people to the park on that day. So.
Always lots of things happening here in Geneseo, particularly this time of year, and it just really doesn't stop with all the Halloween stuff, and then a little bit with Thanksgiving, and then right into Christmas, and so it's kind of a special time of year that we're heading into.
Any final thoughts from the production assistants in the room?
Everything looks good.
Ladies?
I think. Looks like the
No?
cameras were switched well. Looks like the recording's going well on the streaming side, so we've had some good help this morning. But
We're ready for some donuts, Grandpa.
exactly. But Jamie, again, thank you for coming in this
Thank
morning.
you so much for letting us spread awareness. I love it.
And I think I probably speak for anybody listening, but if you ever get pulled over, you want to be pulled over by Jamie or what have
Oh,
you.
goodness, here we go. Now they're
I
going to
don't
pull
mean
my
that.
stats and realize I haven't done a traffic stop in a little bit. I'm in trouble.
But meaning just, from an interaction standpoint, though, talk about somebody that exemplifies really what you want your police officer to be and what have you.
Yeah.
There could be no better example of what that person should be than Jamie. And we're very fortunate to have you here
Thank
in
you.
the community and appreciate all the efforts you and the chief and everybody's doing, not only with this impact program, but just all the other things you do just to keep our community safe and help keep it the special place that it is.